Hey, you know the way to feel the cleanest, to feel the bestest, to feel your absolute manliest is to get Manscaped. And you can do that with 20% off and free shipping if you use the code DNVR20 at manscaped.com. They are out right now, the Perfect Package 3.0, but if you need to get a new razor, you need to get some new deodorant, you need to get a new pair of boxers, you need to get yourself hooked up with everything they've got at manscaped.com. And again, don't forget that if you use that promo code DNVR20, you get 20% off plus free shipping, so order today. Hey, welcome in to the DNVR Rockies Podcast presented by Strava Craft Coffee. Use the code DNVR20 and you'll get 20% off your entire purchase. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And joining us today, we got to get right to it. Very excited to have on the show. You know him, of course, as one of the starting pitchers for your Colorado Rockies and as Denver's own Kyle Freeland. Kyle, man, thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So the first question, I suppose, is the most obvious. We are in between spring trainings. I don't even know if we call this next thing that's coming up here a spring training. But how have you been handling your time, your training, and even some of your downtime here during this lockdown?
I've been doing my best to stay on top of it. I had a place when I was still in Arizona before it got too hot, and I moved to Denver. I had a place there where I was working out with a trainer that I know they're allowed to, open up his facility to me. Continued to throw bullpens, kept my arm going, did everything I could to stay in shape while still at the same time being smart and practicing social distancing. And then, coming out here to Denver and working out at Coors Field with some of the guys and just continue to get our work in to stay prepared as best we could until we hear any sort of news that spring training was going to fire up again.
Can you walk us through what maybe a routine workout day might look like for you during this odd set of circumstances?
It was very different, kind of week to week, especially in Arizona. The guy I was working out with, he went full private, so he had to stagger his private times throughout the day. So kind of every day was kind of a different time for me. And then, when I came to Denver, it was a little more scheduled out, where we had such a minimal amount of people inside Coors that we were able to be together, work out in the morning, get our work in, throw, and then, have the rest of the day to kind of do whatever. But, kind of week to week, everything was different. You had to be prepared for something to change.
You've had a lot of obvious downtime at a time of the year where you don't normally. What's one thing you've noticed about not having to go to work every single day, this time of the year, late in spring, early in summer?
Things get boring pretty quick, but my golf game got pretty good, that's for sure. But I mean, every day was, it was like we were having a second off season, which, for me, and I'm sure for you guys as well, those off seasons sometimes start to drag out, and you really start looking forward to baseball. And to have to go through that again, it sucked. You wanted to play baseball so badly, and you're hoping every single day that you got some sort of good news that, we're moving forward with good negotiations, good talks. Baseball's right around the corner, and every single day you'd wake up hoping to hear something like that.
I was on a different podcast earlier today, and somebody asked a question that I'll just turn to you and ask verbatim. They said, how much do the players, and during all this, really, really want to play? Just from your perspective.
From my perspective, everyone wanted to play. There's never any sort of vocal of like, no, let's not play. Like, everyone loves this game. Everyone is playing this game because at some point as a child they saw it as a dream. They want to play this game to have fun, see their teammates, support their family. Everything like that. So there's never any talks of not playing. Like we always wanted to play this game. We always wanted to get this season started.
With all this downtime, and it seemed like the finish line kept moving back further and further, and it was another week until maybe we can get back in another week. What's something that you were able to do, or the rest of the guys on the team did to try to motivate each other so that every day when you did get an opportunity to work out, you were able to do it to best of your abilities?
Something like that is tough just because it's hard to, get into a competition mode. But I think for us, it was just we were constantly checking in with one another, making sure that everyone's staying on top of their work and getting their work in, and just making sure that every single day we're not losing sight of what our end goal is, and that is to win baseball games and ultimately win a World Series. And I think making sure that everyone was staying on that same page, regardless of how long or short this season is going to be, that there's still a goal that we want to accomplish, regardless of circumstances.
I imagine you use Zoom for a lot of that. Who is the best at using, that outlet? Who's best at using Zoom, and who had the?
I was going to say also the worst. We need to know
who had the most
Zoom.
Technical difficulties.
The best was probably Oberg. I mean, he's obviously our player rep and everything like that, and so he was the one who coordinated a lot of our player calls. Foster was the one who coordinated the starting pitchers calls. So him and Merriman got pretty good at that as well. The worst with technical difficulties, I don't know. We usually had majority of guys whenever there was a call, everyone would be on it and be prepared, or at least be on, have their microphones off or whatever. But everyone was able to pick it up pretty quickly and run with it.
That's good. That's good. It shows adaptability, right?
Yes.
It's all about situational play. For you personally, last time I saw you was obviously down at spring training. You were getting in some good work there. We all know that last season didn't go the way that you wanted it to. And so, it felt like you were getting a real good feel, just back in your toes, back in your arm, back in. So, does this feel like, hey, I'm glad I got that back and now I can build on that when I get back out there? Or does that make this lockdown maybe that much more frustrating, where you were starting to feel like, hey, I'm starting to feel like where I need to be?
It was definitely frustrating. Obviously, like being told like, hey, baseball's being put on a back burner right now, just for health and safety reasons. That sucks, and especially when you have a little bit of momentum. We were 14 days away, I think less than 14 days away from breaking camp. Guys were ready to go, and to be told that that's got to be put on hold, sucks for everybody in every aspect of it. But once I realized when this whole thing started and we were shut down, once I realized that it was going to be a lot longer than what I thought it was going to be, that's when I kind of realized and told myself, like, listen, you have to continue to work on your craft. You have to make sure that whenever you get that call to say, hey, we're firing back up in a week, or we have a set date, that I am prepared. I don't feel like, oh crap, I gotta rush through some things and figure things out quickly. I told myself I need to make sure I'm on top of my stuff and taking care of the business that I need to take care of. That way I'm fully prepared when we start back up, and I feel that way right now.
Do you feel
and then they did that to you, because then they said, hey, you got a week.
Yep, exactly. And there was zero panic in my mind. It was like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm ready.
Do you feel like that extended time kind of allowed you to maybe go back in the lab and give yourself even more devoted time on all those off-season goals you may have had?
Yeah, definitely. It probably wasn't something that I hoped for, but it was one thing that I was able to be like, okay, I have more time to perfect this craft, and get it to where I want it to be. Get my pitches moving where I want, get the grips right, be really comfortable in my body going down the slope, and I was able to do that, and I feel really good about it right now.
There was a video that went viral of Joe Kelly practicing a changeup and throwing one through the window. I take it you saw that. Did you have any stories like that? Anything funny or interesting? Just you're in an unusual environment, and you think you're throwing a great pitch, and suddenly the dog is messing with your mechanics, or
nothing like that. I mean, the weirdest thing that we were doing is Hoffman found a blueprint online of how to build your own at-home mound, and sure enough, he built one, and we were in his backyard, throwing right next to his pool, backed up against a wall, thrown to Mooney across his yard. So that was we got some videos of it too, but that was probably the weirdest thing. We didn't sail any into the streets and sail one into the window. We were hitting our targets, unlike Joe was.
Did that make you feel like a kid again? Like you're almost like, you're an adult, you got a couple bucks in your pocket to buy some equipment and you got power tools, but it's like Sandlot ball again in a way,
Yeah,
right?
we were actually talking about that one day when we were throwing in Hoffman's backyard. Is like, we're back to those, college, high school, little league grinding days where you use what you have at your disposal to get your work in.
I want to ask you about one of the guys that you mentioned earlier. Steve Merriman's role in the organization has grown in the last couple of weeks. So I want to get kind of your sense about him. We've heard, from the outside in the research I've done, he's maybe a little more analytically minded. I was wondering what you think of his approach and if he's bringing you interesting data, some interesting new things that are coming your guys' way with Steve.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent human when it comes to the art of pitching and the numbers and the analytics of everything, and he's a great asset for us. And him being able to be up with us last September, start to pick his brain, him pick our brains, and start really learning from him, carrying that into spring training and throughout this whole quarantine, he's been a very good asset, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can truly do for us throughout the course of a season with the new role that he's playing. So he's an intelligent guy. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's going to be a very big asset for us.
I also wanted to ask you about sort of goal setting in this new world. I don't know if you're a guy who's like, said, I want to pitch X number of innings, because obviously all that stuff's going to have to be changed. I remember talking with Brendan Rodgers at spring training. He was saying, yeah, I set these specific goals and I'll tell you what they are after the season when I hit them. I was like, that was pretty cool. But what do you do for kind of your own expectation management when you're might be making 12 or 13 starts instead of 30?
Yeah, things definitely change. Obviously, it's your innings mark you want to hit changes. Strikeouts, wins, ERA, walks, stuff. All that's going to change drastically, and it's hard to kind of put a number on what it is unless you go back to your previous stats and kind of ballpark off that of like, okay, like I'm looking to be under this or above this in a 60 game period. But I think with this shortened season, guys aren't going to be as concerned about certain personal goals they want to hit just because it's going to be a dead sprint for 60 games. And you're not going to be worried about, I got to keep my walks down. It's what you can do that day to ensure a win.
Do you think that makes it easier to create a winning environment? Because it's hard to contextualize what you do in a single game or a couple weeks span because, you're playing a third of a season. So is it really just boiled down to wins and losses and, hey, we won the game. I'm not too worried too much about my stats right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it, similar to like a college season, where you're playing, 50, 60 game schedule where you are doing everything for your team as a team to win that game no matter what. Just because you don't have a marathon of a season, it's a shortened season where obviously, in a 162 game season, every game does count. Obviously, teams will go to game 163 and then they lose and your season's over with. But I'm looking at this as such a sprint, such a short season where you got to make sure you don't lose sight of winning that game.
Oh, looks like we may have briefly lost the connection there, but we got you back. So yeah. And so along those lines, I wanted to ask you this as well because I keep being asked, like, with the shorter season. Hopefully he's able to hear me here. With the shorter season, are guys going to pitch deeper into games? Are there going to be shorter rotations? Basically, the science of pitching is going to be altered. So, do we have Kyle? Unfortunate. I may have to repeat all that in a second. We'll see if we can get him back in there. Maybe. This is good podcasting. I know that much.
We do have some comments, obviously, showing their love for Kyle. Let's go. Going to be a big year.
Right. One thing I can do here while we're hopefully getting Kyle back in for these last couple of questions is mention that when baseball does return and we're able to watch him out there on the mound, many of us are going to be doing so with Breckenridge Brew. I'm going to be using that code DNVR because you can get $5 off both the beer and the food over there at the farmhouse, which is absolutely delicious. And if you're not near the farmhouse, or you just prefer a little curbside or pickup from your local Davidsons, I highly recommend you get your Breck that way. They can deliver it to you. It's absolutely delicious as well. I've been on the Mile High Copper Lager kick as of late. Also, try out that 15-can sampler if you're just curious about some of the other beers that you haven't been able to get to. And also a reminder to check out DraftKings, man. DraftKings has got you hooked up with an opportunity to make some money. If you use the DraftKings Sportsbook app, make sure that you sign up with the promo code DNVR because they will hook you up with a sign-up bonus of up to $1,000. There's going to be all kinds of options to bet out there. You can do it safe and secure. It's totally legal. Withdraw your funds and deposit at your own convenience. Again, use that promo code DNVR and you can get a sign-up bonus of up to 1,000 smackaroos. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. And it looks like we've got Kyle back. Excellent. And so what I wanted to ask you about was kind of the science of pitching here. I keep being asked, are we going to see maybe shorter rotations or bullpens used differently? Are guys going to pitch deeper and deeper into games? And, understanding that this is ultimately Bud Black's call, just from a science of pitching standpoint, you were talking about how this is more of a sprint. Is that something where you're thinking, hey, I might go max effort a little more often start to start? So maybe that's pitching deeper into games, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's pitching more. I don't know how it works. So just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, teams and managers and, pitchers are going to get very creative on how to attack this and try and find the best way and the, smoothest way to go about, rotations, innings, how to start the season, how to end the season, everything like that. Obviously, like you said, that'll be a managerial decision that'll come from Bud, and I'm sure he'll be talking to us as pitchers. He'll be talking to front office. He'll be trying to get everyone's opinions to see what could potentially be the best option for us. But there's you can look at it as it's such a short season that starting pitchers are every 5 days are going out there and they're blowing it out, trying to go as deep as possible and leave it all on the table just because we're potentially only looking at maybe 13, 14 starts.
One of the interesting new wrinkles is the wet rag. Now, of course, because of COVID-19, trying to reduce the spitting and tobacco, seeds, all of that stuff, and pitchers won't be allowed to lick their fingers like normal. Have you played around with using a wet rag yet? Have you gotten a feel for that? Do you know how that might work?
No, yeah, I don't know how that one's gonna work. It'll be interesting to see, once they, implement that or how they go about that. Just because, as baseball players and especially pitchers, licking your fingers is second nature to us. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find grip on the ball. We're trying to, create some grip. So that wet rag will be interesting just because, I'm sure we've all had, something in our pocket that has been damp or anything, and it's not a very good feeling. When you have rain on your pants or shorts like that, it's not a good feeling to have. So I can only imagine if that wet rag starts soaking through your back pocket. Next thing you know, you got a wet left butt cheek, and you're trying to throw strikes. So it's going to be interesting on how everything goes about that. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question about this and wasn't quite sure how, because I know you guys are ball players and not doctors, and we've had to try to answer these questions, and no one knows what we're talking about. But I think the broadest way to say is, what have the conversations sort of been like with the teams, and I don't know, have there been extra doctors, and how sort of comfortable are you with the the communication about the health and safety measures?
The Rockies have done a great job with communicating with us on, how we're going to be going about our business on a day-to-day basis. And, just, obviously, like, health and safety is first and foremost the number one thing on everyone's agenda for getting started back up. But the Rockies have done a great job with communicating with us on how we're going to be doing things, how things are going to work, when and if, someone tests positive, if someone is feeling ill at all. So they've done a great job with their communication with us on how things are going to be going.
And I'd like to end on a baseball one. So I just want to say, when I talked to the top, I'll just say the top three pitchers in the rotation last year, I was talking to you and John and Armand a little bit about what you guys are capable of, all still kind of coming into your primes here. And I just wanted to hear it from you, man. I wanted to hear the sell job. I know you guys are excited about what you're able to do. And I don't want to cut it off there either. Just as a starting pitcher unit, what you guys feel you're capable of now that we know there's going to be baseball. We're all ready to see it. I'm sure you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all three of us have shown quality flashes of it over the past, 3 years. We've shown consistency. We've shown, some very high highs. And I think it's going to be up to us to put that all together into one season and also have help from, 2, maybe 3 more guys in the starting rotation of, helping us get to our ultimate goal of winning a pennant, winning a World Series, and being the number one team in baseball.
That seems like as good a place to leave it as any. I don't think we're going to top that. Kyle, thank you so much for taking the time, man, and hopefully we'll see you down at Coors Field very, very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome having Kyle Freeland on the show. Obviously, you can see his excitement for the game to be back, just plastered on his face like it is for all of us. And even that, like him saying, a week? Good. I'm good to go.
Yeah, you said it pretty well. Chomping at the bit is a good way to describe it because, this is what they do. This is their job. It's their profession. It's also what they've done since they were, little boys. It's a habit. And this habit is, played out well for them. It's their career. And, when you do something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And so for them, it's not their job. It's their life. And they haven't been able to do that for months now. When every spring, that's the one thing that they can count on. When the winter and everything thaws out, especially for Freeland, who's used to that in Colorado, It's time to get back to the ball fields, play baseball. And they haven't been able to do that. Now they are. And July 1st, they're going to report. We hope to have games starting on July 23rd, which is my birthday.
Let's go.
I had no arrangements with that. At least I don't think. All my prayers had been answered. I must have been a good boy this year, and I'm going to be very happy blowing out my birthday candles when baseball comes back. So it's great seeing Freeland in such good spirits. And I imagine there's 59 other guys that are going to be on that 60-man squad that are feeling the exact same thing right now.
Yeah, I was 50-50 on asking him that how much do players want to play question, because that's a delicate thing to ask a guy. And you could even see, even with the way I phrased it, he's frustrated by the notion, right? And so I don't think he was like upset with me for asking, because I was literally just giving him the platform to say what he said, and it needs to be said. It's important for people to hear that from the players. Like, at no point during any of this were the players going, let's just not play. Can't sadly be said for everybody on the other side of those negotiations. Kyle did also mention that his golf game has gone off the charts, which is awesome, because my golf game is getting okay. And of course I mean digitally, because if you actually saw me swing some golf clubs, well, we would all be embarrassed for each other just for being in that situation. But what you don't need to be embarrassed about is joining the DNVR Country Club at WGT Golf, the most beloved free golf game in the world. You can download it right now totally for free on either your laptop or your phone at dnvrgolf.com. Play closest to the hole or full stroke play at Pebble Beach, Bethpage Black, St. Andrews, and more. You can challenge just about any of us on the DNVR staff at just about any time, unless we're recording a podcast with Kyle Freeland at that particular moment. Other times, we'll hop on and accept your challenge. If it's Patrick, you got your hands full. If it's me, you got a pretty good shot of winning. So challenge whichever one of us you feel like. If you want to challenge Patrick. If you want to win, challenge me. And I will happily accept and lose to you in WGT Golf because I find it to be fun no matter what.
And you can challenge our entire staff.
Yeah.
Because this weekend we have a little competition between our two country clubs. And all the old school members, including all the staff of DNVR, we are in the OG DNVR Country Club. And if you sign up right now, you'll be in DNVR 2. You'll be in that country club, and you're going to be going against the best of our best. So if you're a ringer, just wait for DNVR 3.
There you go.
So we can maybe have a victory. But if you are new, please join DNVR 2 this weekend.
Get right in there.
Yeah. Bring those average scores up just a little bit. Learn the game in the middle of a tournament for your first time. Please do so.
I'm not counting out DNVR 2. I will say, I think, because I'm going to play for DNVR 1. So, and as is Rudo. And so we're going to be dragging some of these scores up.
Yes. I hear there's some good players in DNVR 2. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like the ones who kind of just got in a little bit late, or they already had an account and didn't realize we had a country club. Boom. I think there's going to actually be a lot of competition this weekend. And it is both Saturday and Sunday. So you're not forcing it. If you work all day on Sunday, fear not, because you can get in and set some high scores up on Saturday. It's going to be a good 48 hours of competition.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Or extraordinarily frustrating, but it'll be entertaining either way. I've also got to agree with, we threw this comment up earlier, but I've got to agree with our guy, Chris, saying K-Free going to have a big year this year. I tend to agree, and it's always been a big part of my analysis that, hooray, we get to start getting back into what can this team do? How many games can they win? Can they compete? Can they, and that interview that we just did, I know you still got to go out there and pitch. I understand it, but Freeland, he's got his head in the right place. He's not going to be. There will be some players who are caught up in having treated this lockdown like a second off season. There are going to be guys. I don't know about too many on the Rockies. We'll see. There are going to be some guys throughout baseball who show up overweight or under shape or whatever it is, and Kyle Freeland ain't going to be one of them.
Yeah, he's ready to go. I mean, he's got a lot to prove because, the dude does something that, not very many pitchers in Rockies history have ever done. And ultimately, that's just even getting a Cy Young Award vote. Finishes fourth
right.
in 2018 and then, has a really bad 2019. And people say, well, which is he more like? And maybe he's somewhere in the middle. But the bottom line is he was there. He was at the front of the pack of the best pitchers in 2018. And we just did coverage of the draft. We're still kind of breaking all of that down as the Rockies went ahead and signed two more guys today.
Right.
But you're taking guys because of their potential, of how high they can reach. And other guys, you just say, hey, he's a body and he'll be good. He can contribute like a number 4 or number 5 starter. But Kyle Freeland, first round pick, top 10 pick, he pitched like that in 2018. And there are numerous guys selected in the first round that never even make it to the majors. So,
right.
Freeland, that talent came to fruition once. It can definitely do it again. If it never had happened, people would have said, well, the kid from Denver, yeah, he's a nice pitcher. He's really good. Yeah, maybe one day, he can get back up to, a 15-win season or something like that. The dude was challenging for a Cy Young Award. It's almost unheard of for a Colorado Rockies pitcher. So he did that once, and now, we're still going to have postseason awards. He could do it again. Kyle Freeland, maybe it's only 12 starts, but he has an opportunity to win an NL Cy Young Award this year.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And I think that's, I really loved what he said about the three of them putting it all together because I feel like I've danced around this or maybe made the point in like hours-long rants that were weeks apart about each of the three individual pitchers. And then, of course, Kyle came on and said in just a couple of seconds, but it was just like, you think about the guy that Freeland was for most of 2018, and the guy that German Marquez was for the second half of 2018 and for the second half of 2019, and you think about the pitcher that John Gray was for most of 2019, if you get those three guys, you've got a really good starting rotation. And he acknowledged, we haven't always been our best, but look at who we are at our best, where John was last year, where Marquez has been at times. Marquez, I think, is the only guy who hasn't put together like a complete season of it, but he's the one who's got the best stuff and the best underlying numbers, and the guy who I would probably put highest on my power rankings of which one of these three guys could win a Cy Young in a shortened season where he's just turned 25 and can go manscape balls to the wall, all out, throwing 98 with a hook of a curveball that should be illegal in most states. Like, I could see Marquez going absolutely bananas, but the key for the Rockies to compete is exactly what Freeland just said. You get those three guys at their best, this team is a contender.
Yeah, and the ability to win games can snowball. And it's like, wow, look at us. We're doing it. And that can be said for all 30 teams. We
Right.
don't expect the Miami Marlins to be a contender, but they go 8-2 across their first 10 games. They go, hey, we believe in us. And, that stuff can grow, man. That anything can happen. So any team, sure, can say this. But the Rockies and their pitchers, who we're talking about here, they actually have that track record to suggest they've been able to do it for long periods of time. Miami pitchers, not as much. But in Colorado, they've got a trio that can really do that. And one interesting little wrinkle, too, to throw in all this is, a couple teams have actually made some announcements that they're actually going to go to 6-man rotations. Now, they might only start that way, and they might go back to 5, but that could be a way, I guess, again, to reduce numbers. And much like you asked, Drew, hey, if I'm going every 6 days now I really can go all out and really give my best stuff and just put the pedal to the metal. So, hey, if I'm only going 6 innings, I'm going to show all my best stuff, and, I'm going to be gassed after 85 pitches. But guess what? I didn't give up an earned run against the Astros or the Athletics or the Diamondbacks, whatever it is. So there are, again, so many moving pieces. We talked about the wet rag even too.
That's great.
Work. It would be interesting if Colorado were to bring in a professional like Gaylord Perry. I'm sure he knows his way around a wet rag and
bet he
how to
does.
possibly utilize that. So, it's exciting to just think about all the different possibilities, and it's not any kind of fake bravado either, Drew. It's when you're a fan of a team, you only see the best in your players, even if they haven't really done it. Right? Again, go back to the Miami Marlins. They haven't really done it. They haven't really done anything. Their guys are so young. But Colorado has done some things. Playoffs in 17, in 18. We're talking about these three workhorses. One of them, again, has Cy Young Award aspirations just a few years ago. German Marquez probably has the best shot. John Gray overall has had the highest expectations and could very easily deliver. And we're not even talking about all of the all-star bats that they have in their lineup.
Right.
So there's a lot of juice to be excited about and to dream on, and we still have about a month until we're actually going to get it to see in action.
Right. And I do want to wrap up on this thought because we're going to actually record another podcast today, which is going to be fun. Going to talk to our friend Kevin. But it's you were just talking about however it unfolds, whether it's 4-man rotation or a 6-man rotation, the 5th and or 6th spot, right? The idea there is that you would have probably like an all hands on deck type of situation, bullpenning as it's been called, right? And that's an interesting case for the Rockies too. Now, this is where we won't know across baseball how many teams have these guys. What we know for the Rockies is that they've got a group of 4 or 5 guys who are in that 5th starter conversation anyway. This was a big battle, right, going into spring training, during spring training. Is it going to be Chichi Gonzalez? Is it going to be Jeff Hoffman? What do you do with Peter Lambert? You probably got to stick him in AAA. You got Ryan Castellani and Ashton Gados showing some really interesting things right behind those guys, even though they haven't made their debuts yet. You're invested in their talent. So you've got this crop of dudes. Well, essentially that becomes your taxi squad all hands on deck, 5th and or 6th starter, so that you can put Jeff Hoffman on the mound and cross your fingers and hope he's having a good day. And if he walks the first 2 guys he faces, you could literally pull him out of there right then if you were ready. You probably wouldn't quite be ready. But, if Chichi Gonzalez is expected to come into the game anyway, or Ashton Godot, or something to that effect. So there's a lot of different ways you can play that, and it could benefit for the Rockies, who have a lot of guys we think might be pitchers in this league, but they're giant question marks, so you don't want to have to pick just one of them to rely on.
Yeah, if you throw 6 guys out there, and again, if the 6th guy, blows up or gets hurt, God forbid, number 7 comes in, and again, you have 6 guys to take up 5 spots in the rotation. So after 2 or 3 times, because again, these pitchers, Kyle's working his tail off, yet he hasn't been able to throw, pitches in a live game or a simulated game, really. I know he's done a little of that at Coors Field already, but, he's 5 innings is probably a long outing, that first week of the season before we even get to August. So you're going to need to go through a 6-man rotation potentially, 3 times. 5 of those 6 guys are going to have what it takes. And I think, the Rockies have good depth. I don't think, that 6th starter or that 7th starter is going to, give the Rockies an all-time 90s Atlanta Braves rotation kind of thing where, oh my God, this guy's like Steve Avery and Kent Merker. Like, I don't think it's going to be that good, but it's going to be talented enough where, again, you have to like the shot at a short season, Colorado being able to hold it together long enough to get one of those playoff spots. And I'm not saying a wild card. I'm just saying a playoff spot, because anything can happen. We're looking at you, LA. We are looking at you, Dodgers.
We are. And, seeing a little bit of camp training, we got to figure out what we're calling this, by the way. And even the first week of games, I'll feel much more confident after then, seeing who comes out looking good, what team's health is like.
Sprummer training?
Sprummer training, yeah.
Spring,
I think that's what.
Summer?
Okay. It has no flow whatsoever. It's terrible, but it's still better than what we have so far.
It's just training camp.
It's just camp. I know, right?
Summer camp?
Oh, it's such a football word.
Summer camp.
It's summer camp. Everyone loves summer camp.
Book it.
All right, Matt, we see your question here about Chad Bettis retiring, and we are going to get to that in the next podcast that we are recording today. We'll probably start up actually in about 5 to 10 minutes from now. We're going to take a quick little break here. We appreciate everyone joining us for this conversation with Kyle Freeland. If you're hanging out with us on the live, and by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, hopefully you will subscribe in the future so you don't miss Kyle. You could have asked him a question if you were here today with us on the YouTube or the Periscope or the Facebook. And so, yeah, make sure you're subscribed to those, giving us a like and all of that. And hang out for a few minutes. We'll be doing more Rockies talk. We got to talk about some of the news with the Rockies draft picks. We got to talk about Chad Bettis retiring. We got to get back into the Nolan Arenado conversation. Our guy Kevin Henry at Rocks Pile is our guest, and he's done an excellent job working out some ideas about Nolan Arenado and how this lockdown changes things. So we'll be covering all of those topics. In the meantime, make sure that you're just subscribing to the DNVR.com. You're following everybody on social media. You're helping out our sponsors by drinking some Breck Brew or some Strava Craft coffee, getting yourself Manscaped, doing all that good stuff. If you're trying to make a little bit of money on the side, you're using that DraftKings Sportsbook. And so, yeah, we can only thank you for joining us for this one and hanging around for the next one. Keep being awesome out there. We'll keep being Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until just about a few minutes, we will see you at the ballpark.